Oh, hey there, who's down for some knowledge? Alrighty then. Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. The ancient Romans would use war pigs during battle against the enemy's war elephants because after the infamous philosopher Pliny the Elder told them that the smallest squeal of a hog would startle elephants, they decided that was a good idea. And it worked. It would actually cause the elephants in battle to panic and trample the enemy forces. Pop singer Kesha was accepted into Barnard College at Columbia University after she received an almost perfect score on the SATs. However, she dropped out before her graduation and chose to pursue a career in music. Obviously, that was a good idea. Because the Earth is in constant rotation at all times, centrifugal force is created on the planet, which makes the equator thicker and widen out. This means that our planet is not a perfect sphere like many people believe, but actually more of an ellipsoid. If you factor that part in, the highest point above Earth isn't the peak of Mount Everest, but the peak of Ecuador's Mount Chimborazo. This is because it sits just 1 degree south of the equator. The difference is quite noticeable too, since the summit of Mount Chimborazo is 2,072 meters farther from the Earth's center than Mount Everest summit. According to Rick Clifford, who was an audio engineer at Death Row Records in the 1990s, legendary rapper Tupac Shakur once auditioned for the role of Jedi Master Mace Windu in 1999's Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace. He was said to have auditioned sometime close to his death in 1996, but of course was turned down when the role went to Samuel L. Jackson. Following the end of World War II, a young US naval dentist named Jack Mallory was stationed at a hospital in Tokyo that also took care of several imprisoned Japanese officials. Among them was former Prime Minister Hideki Tojo, who was known as the architect of the War on the Pacific. Tojo later requested dentures to be put into his mouth so that he could speak during his trial. Mallory saw this as his own little opportunity for revenge and inscribed "Remember Pearl Harbor" in Morse code on the fake teeth before installing them into Tojo's mouth. The word about the inscription spread, and a few months later, Mallory made another appointment with Tojo to grind it down. He was never caught and punished for his vengeance. In 2015, archaeologists excavating the ancient Egyptian pyramids found pots of honey that were dated around 3,000 years old that were still perfectly edible. The ancient Egyptians used honey for a variety of different reasons, such as a gift to the gods, sweetener for food and drink, and embalming fluid. Inmates on Japan's death row are never told when they are going to be executed. Instead, they're notified on the morning of about an hour before their execution. The US Navy and Marine Corps combined for the second largest air force in the world, with over 3,700 types of aircrafts. The largest on the list belongs to the US, with the Air Force having 5,600 types of aircrafts. Because of the different types of roasting processes in dark beans, dark roasts contain less caffeine than light roasts per scoop. Pokemon creator Satoshi Tajiri has a high-functioning form of autism and would collect bugs as a kid and video games as a teenager. Now you can kind of see how the two came together. Maybe he thought the bugs were pocket monsters, I'm just saying. When actor Pierce Brosnan was casted for James Bond in 1995's GoldenEye, he signed an agreement stating that he was not allowed to wear a tuxedo in any other of his films as long as he was playing Bond. The Olympic medals in basketball during the 1936 Summer Games were awarded and handed out by Dr. James Naismith, the inventor of basketball. The gold medal went to the United States, the silver went to Canada, and the bronze went to Mexico. In 2007, orange and smelly snow fell onto Siberia, which was caused by a heavy sandstorm in Kazakhstan. The snow contained sand and clay dust particles that were blown into the upper stratosphere. When a plutonium bomb was detonated in Mexico during the Trinity Project of 1945, the blast created little shards and beads of green, blue, and reddish glass from the sand. This material is now officially known as trinitite. World War I battlefields are still being cleaned up today, and workers estimate that it will take between 300 and 700 years to complete. There are even still areas of Europe that are closed off to the public because they are so toxic to anything living. There are numerous hills and mountains in North America that are named after women's breasts, such as Grand Teton, Squat Tweet Peak, and Titilla Peak. This has to do with the idea of Earth being related to a motherly woman. Marvel creator Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby's inspiration for Professor X was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and their inspiration for Magneto was Malcolm X. Researchers at Berkeley College found out that the fox squirrel of North America buries and hides up to 10,000 nuts over a season, and remembers the exact location of 9,000 of them, which is a 90% success rate. Accessing another person's wireless network in Singapore without their consent is considered illegal and punishable either by a fine of $10,000, 3 years in prison, or both. So I should get off my neighbor's Wi-Fi now, is what they're saying, in case the law comes here? Okay. In 2009, fullback Owen Schmidt of the Seattle Seahawks took off his helmet and intentionally bashed his forehead with it after scoring a touchdown. Blood began to pour down his face and he had to get stitches. I did a good job! There's a basketball court located on the 5th floor of the US Supreme Court building, and it's named the highest court in the land. Without anyone's knowledge, serial killer John Cooper competed on a game show Bullseye a month before he murdered 2 people with a shotgun in 1989. He even told the host his favorite hobby was scuba diving in the area where the victims were found. The tape of the episode was used as evidence in a case, and he also lost the competition. Flamethrowers were used to melt the snow in the roads for the inauguration of President John F. Kennedy in 1961. We make up to 35,000 decisions a day according to researchers at Cornell University. Around 226 of those decisions are based on food alone, and we can make up to 63,875,000 decisions in a 5-year span of our life. Simplify, people. Simplify. According to the National Weather Service, 82% of people who are killed by lightning are men. These deaths are mostly from various leisure activities such as golfing, camping, and especially fishing. A team of Dutch designers have created a machine called the crowbar that rewards wild crows with a treat if they deposit a cigarette butt into it. They believe that allying with these intelligent birds will greatly help the litter problem. However, they believe that some problems may arise because the crows might just learn to take cigarettes from people's mouths and our hands. They also think that holding that many cigarette butts in their mouth might make them sick from the chemicals. 13-year-old child prodigy Alma Deutscher composed her first piano sonata when she was just 6, completed her first major opera titled The Sweeper of Dreams at 7, and completed her first full-length opera called Cinderella when she was just 10. As of October 2017, the IRS now accepts cash for tax payments at any local 7-Eleven convenience store. The director of the 2005 film Lord of War purchased 3,000 Kalashnikov rifles for the movie because they were cheaper than buying the props. In 1945, General Mills renamed their popular cereal Cheerios to Cheerios because Quaker issued a trademark infringement complaint against them. The Motion Picture and Television Country House is a retirement community on Mulholland Drive in Los Angeles that has housed members of the motion picture and television industry since 1948. The Concorde supersonic airliner burns up to 94 tons of fuel on a flight from London to New York, and burns 2 tons of fuel just by taxiing onto the runway. Saturday Night Live cast member Kenan Thompson refused to dress in drag for sketches until the producers casted a black woman on the show. The origins of a housewarming party came from the medieval times when each guest would bring firewood to a new house for the fireplaces and literally warm up the rooms. Korean pop singer Psy didn't want to upload his famous music video Gangnam Style to YouTube at first because he thought that he would be humiliated internationally and wasn't aware that he would attract fans from around the world. The video is currently sitting over 3 billion views. The saw that's used to remove casts does not cut human skin because the small toothed blade vibrates instead of rotates, which makes the skin move with the blade. The inventor of the lithium-ion battery, named James Goodenough, had never received any money for his invention and never won the Nobel Prize. Many believe that his invention is a crucial step in eliminating the burning of fossil fuels. The Sioux have refused $1.3 billion in restitution from the United States government for the taking of the Black Hills in 1877, 1 year after the Battle of Little Bighorn. They believe that there's no price for their ancestral homeland and that it should have never been taken in the first place without their consent. When pianist Fats Waller Lawler was 21 years old, he was more or less forced to play at Al Capone's birthday party. The party lasted 3 days, and by the time it was over, the exhausted and drunk Waller ended up making thousands of dollars, along with an acquired taste for fine champagne. In 1633, a German village named Oberammergau in Bavaria vowed to put on a passion play every 10 years if God spared them from the bubonic plague. Since 1634, the village still puts on the play every decade, with the next scheduled performances for 2020. There were only 22 California condors left on Earth in 1982, but by 2014, the population had risen by 439, with 225 living in the wild. The deepest man-made hole in the world is the Kola super deep borehole in Russia. The intention of the Soviet Union project was to drill a 23-centimeter hole as deep as possible into the Earth's crust starting in 1970. By 1989, the borehole reached the deepest artificial part of Earth at 12,262 meters. According to the Entertainment Software Association, adult women represent 33% of the video game population, while boys under the age of 18 years old represent only 17% of the overall population. A small building in Wilmington, Delaware is home to the mailing addresses of more than 300,000 companies in the world. Some of these well-known companies are Walmart, Verizon, American Airlines, and eBay. The USS Niagara was intentionally sunk for preservation in 1820 and was raised back up again in 1913 for restoration to celebrate the centennial of the Battle of Lake Erie. However, the ship began to deteriorate and the restoration did not start again until the 1930s, but the Great Depression caused the funding to be halted. The restoration process to the ship wasn't completed until 1963. The Wheel of Fortune's longtime hostess, Vanna White, earns $8 million a year from the show, and her net worth is currently $140 million. Earth has another continent named Zealandia that is completely submerged under the Pacific Ocean. The 4,920,000 square kilometer landmass broke off from Australia somewhere between 60 and 85 million years ago. Actor George Clooney spends most of his money that he makes from his Nespresso commercials on a satellite that roams over the border of North and South Sudan to watch President Omar al-Bashir. The satellite tracks the movement of Sudan's army so that it can attempt to let citizens know when an attack will occur. Crocodiles are able to jump vertically out of the water by using their tail to thrust them up and their legs to act as pistons. They are capable of doing this from a stationary position to attack and catch their prey.